Good day everyone in the Comic-Con Africa community, and a happy Star Wars Day to you. May the 4th be with you. My name is Brendan Jackson, although I am better known as Jax or Jax Cosplay. Comic-Con Africa have asked me to be their Cosplay Connect guest for the month of May because I am such a huge Star Wars fan. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be showing you how to make this DH-17 blaster from the Star Wars universe. Now with this video, I hope to do two things. The first is to show you a bit of a behind the scenes and an insight into how I make my props for my cosplays so that you guys can do it too. And secondly is hopefully inspire some of you guys to make your own cosplays or props so that when we start having cons in real life again, in person, you'll be able to showcase some awesome props and cosplays that you guys have made. If you guys enjoy watching this video, I also have an Instagram, which is @jax.cosplay, where I show all sorts of other cosplay and prop making things as well as geeky content. And I've got my own YouTube channel, which is Jax Cosplay, where I show other tutorials, other prop tutorials, costume tutorials, and other general geeky stuff. So be sure to go check out those two things. In the meantime, let's get right on into making this DH-17 blaster. Okay, so in order to get started with making this prop, I needed a template to work from as my guide for making this prop. So I've gone ahead and I've drawn up a digital template, printed it out on 3 pages and taped these 3 pages together so that I've got a full 1:1 scale of the prop that I'm going to be making. And I will try and make this template available for those of you watching this tutorial. It'll either be down in the link below in the description or something like that. Okay, so the first thing that I want to start working on for this prop is I want to work on this main base, so this section here, so this tube here and the handle, which will form the base of the prop. So to make this part here, I'm going to be using some 40mm PVC pipe. Now you can get this at your builder's warehouse, you can get it at Chamberlain's, pretty much anywhere hardware store should have this, and the 40mm one you'll generally find in the plumbing section of your hardware store. So I'm just going to put this up there to my template, take a pencil, and I can then mark out how much I want, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and then we will start working on this piece for the blaster. Okay, so I've gone and I've cut down my piece of PVC pipe to the length that I want it to be, and I've also just taken a pencil and I have marked on that area from the template to the PVC pipe. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to use a Dremel tool with a cutting disc to just cut out that area, and then we'll clean it up with a sanding disc, with a sanding drum. And then for the back of this pipe, I've got here a cap of an old deodorant bottle, which I'm going to put on there, but currently it is a bit long, so I'm just going to also, when I'm cutting that part out with the Dremel, I'm also just going to cut off a bit of this so that it isn't so long on there, and then we will start, you can see the blaster is starting to take shape. Okay, so first, just a little bit of safety when using any kind of Dremel tool or power tool. Safety is always first. So when using a Dremel, you always want to be using a respirator, and you want to be using a pair of safety glasses just in case something possibly shatters or anything like that. You don't want to be causing any damage to your eyes, and the respirator will help keep harmful particles out of your lungs. Okay, so now we want to attach our back end cap to our barrel, or the base of it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use some hot glue and we're just going to attach these two pieces together. So I'm going to put some hot glue inside the cap and around here. Okay, so now that we have got this end cap glued onto the thing, we're going to want to start working on the handle. So I'm just going to go ahead with a craft blade, and I'm just going to cut out this handle so that we've got a template for the piece that we want to make. Okay, so now that we've got this piece cut out, we can start making the handle of the blaster. Okay, so we have now gone and traced out this little template for the handle onto some grey backing board cardboard. Now this cardboard is fairly common. You can get it at places like P&A or CNA or other craft stores. And it's quite a thick cardboard, so when you're cutting it with a craft knife, you do have to be careful that you don't that your blade doesn't skip and cut you, and it will take a few cuts to get through this board. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out, and this is going to form the base of our handle. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so we have got our hardboard piece of the handle cut out, and now what I've got here is I've got some 10mm EVA foam. Now for this you can either use the yoga mats or you can use the floor mats. So any kind of EVA foam that's about 10mm will work. What we're going to do now is we're just going to trace this piece out on here twice and cut it out. Then once we've cut it out, we will sandwich will be foam, cardboard piece and another piece of foam, and we're going to be using contact cement for that. Okay, so now that we've got our two pieces of foam cut out, what we're going to use is we're going to use some Gingham contact adhesive to join these three pieces together. So it'll be foam, cardboard, foam, and this is what's going to make the handle of our blaster. So the foam gives it a bit of depth, and the cardboard basically just gives it a bit of a strong core. So how contact cement works is you put a little bit of contact cement on both surfaces of the pieces you want to join. You spread it around and then you let it dry for a bit, and then when those two pieces have become tacky, then you stick them together, and on contact they will stick. Okay, so now that we have got this piece all glued together, we're just going to take the Dremel tool again with a sanding drum and just going to clean up all the edges, round it all over a bit just to make it look a bit neater and all that stuff. So don't forget to use your respirator and your safety glasses when using the Dremel. Okay, we're now going to use some contact cement to glue the handle onto the base of the gun. So let's go ahead and put some contact cement on. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we have got some 2mm craft foam here, and what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be cutting out a few pieces and sticking them onto the base here to add these little details here and here. And for this little stick here, I've also got some thin dowel stick, and so we're just going to use the 2mm foam and the dowel stick to add all these little details here onto both sides of the blaster. Okay, so I have also got and cut out some pieces of the 10mm EVA foam, the same foam that we use for the handle, and I've put some contact cement on them and some contact cement on the blaster so we can go and add these additional layers of detail. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this top piece here. So that's that detail piece there. And then I've got these pieces here, which, as you can see, have been cut at a bit of an angle, cuts at an angle there, just to create some more detail and interest to the piece. So we're going to go ahead and first stick this one on here. Okay, so having completed the majority of the base of the blaster, we can now move on to making the barrel of the blaster as well as the scope to go on top of the blaster. Okay, so to make the barrel of the blaster, I have gone ahead and cut a piece of 20mm PVC pipe. And now this piece is long enough to go from the end here where these lines end all the way into the base of the blaster. But as you can see, the 20mm is a bit small. So what we're going to go do is we're going to cut some 8mm EVA foam and cover this entire pipe in 8mm EVA foam so it will snugly fit into the base of the blaster. Okay, so what I have done now is I have got a piece of 2mm EVA foam and I've just marked some lines in there into equal half centimeter strips, and I put some contact cement on there and some contact cement on the barrel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these strips one by one and stick them onto the barrel of the blaster. Okay, so we have got the little strips glued onto the barrel here. Now the next thing we're going to do is we want to make this cone part at the end of the barrel. And to do that, I've got this plastic shot glass, but unfortunately it's covered at the bottom because that's how glasses work. So I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to cut out a hole here, and then I'm going to use some hot glue to attach these two pieces together. Okay, so to make the scope of the blaster, what we're going to be using is we're going to be using some 20mm PVC pipe. We're going to be using another shot glass where I've already cut the top out so I can slide over the pipe. And we're going to be using this different type of shot plastic glass, which is a bit of a different shape from this one, as you can see. And we're going to cut this one down a bit with the Dremel tool, just so it resembles that shape a bit better. And so we'll cut this and glue these two pieces on. Okay, I'm now gluing some 5mm EVA foam to the middle of the scope, and then we'll go and round it off with the Dremel just to make it a bit round to make this part of the scope here. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I have got a piece of coat hanger wire, which I just cut off a piece of coat hanger. You can use any wire for this. And what I'm using is I'm just using a pair of pliers, and I am bending it into the shape of the clip to go at the back of the blaster. So you can kind of just freehand this however big you feel it should be. And there we go, we've got a ring, which we will cut a piece of foam to go at the back for this piece here, and then the ring will be able to attach at the back. Okay, so to make the trigger guard for the blaster, what I've done is I've cut some thin pieces of 2mm EVA foam, and I've got a paper clip which I just unfolded, which I'm going to sandwich between these two pieces, and which will then allow me to bend the piece into the right shape I need for this curved piece here. And we're going to do the same thing for the actual trigger. We're going to cut two pieces the shape of the trigger, put some of the thin wire from the paper clip inside of it, and glue it on. And there we have it. That is the construction of the blaster done. The barrel, however, is still loose. We will glue this in after we have painted because it will just make painting a bit easier. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take a heat gun and we're going to hit both of these pieces with some heat. And what that will do is it will seal the EVA foam to get the surfaces ready for painting. And I've also gone and I've taken my craft blade and I've just scored in some detail lines into the handle. And when the heat hits that part, it will make those detail lines pop. So we're going to hit it with some heat. Then after that, we're going to give it some coats of gray spray primer. Then we'll hit this one with some black spray paint, this one with some silver spray paint, glue them together, and then do some weathering on them. Okay, and there we have it. We have finished the construction of the blaster and we have finished the painting of the blaster. So now if you really wanted to, you could leave the blaster like this, looking like it just came new out of the factory. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do some weathering on it. And weathering is my favorite stage in the cosplay making and prop making process. Because it's the stage where you really get to tell a prop story and cement it in that world that it comes from. So for this blaster, I'm going to be using two different weathering techniques. The first I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing some battle damage weathering. So I'm going to be dry brushing some silver over the black areas of the blaster to make it look like some of the black paint has chipped away, like it's been damaged or dropped or seen a bit of combat. The second weathering technique I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using some watered down black acrylic paint which I will just wash over all the silver parts and then wipe away with a cloth to kind of make it look like it's maybe been dropped in the mud and hasn't been cleaned properly, and just tell the story of this blaster. So let's go on right ahead and do those 2 weathering techniques. And there we have it. That is how to make this prop blaster from the Star Wars universe. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two about prop making and cosplay making, and that hopefully in the future you will try making some of your own props and cosplays. Let us know down below in the comments which characters from the Star Wars universe you would want to cosplay. Don't forget to subscribe to the Comic-Con Africa YouTube channel, and also go check out my channel, which is Jax Cosplay, for more cosplay and prop related tutorials and videos and other geek content. Thank you so much for watching this video, and this has been Brendan Jackson from Jax Cosplay.
Let us know if you also made the blaster in the comments below, and tag us on social media and we'll give you a galactic level of love. Next up, Calvin chats to Jax about his cosplay journey.
So we are joined by Brendan at Jax Cosplay. Hey, Brendan, how you doing? No.
Good, thanks, and you. Thank you so much for having me.
Can't complain at all. You're most welcome. So we were chatting a little bit before, and I want to cut right to it. You are a massive Star Wars fan, as we can see. I mean, going on a limb here, I think you're a Star Wars fan. So tell us a little bit about your journey to the Star Wars fandom.
So I've been a Star Wars fan for quite a while. My first exposure to the Star Wars universe, I was probably about 8 years old, and a friend of mine had Lego Star Wars, the video game, on PlayStation 2.
Yes.
So that was my first ever exposure to the Star Wars universe, and ever since then, I've just been absolutely hooked on everything and anything Star Wars.
Yeah. Dig it. I can also remember those Lego games were the bomb, and they just keep getting better. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're also going to chat about the cosplay element to your Star Wars obsession. I want to know from you, what was kind of like that tipping point where you were like, I love Star Wars so much, I'm ready to take it to the next step, and I'm going to express it through cosplay. What was that kind of penny drop moment for you?
Well, I mean, probably when I was about 14 years old or so, a friend of mine, we were going to a local convention, and we were both huge Star Wars fans at the time, and we'd heard about this thing called cosplay, having seen it in movies and TV shows, and we thought, well, why don't we make some costumes and dress up for this convention? So that was my first toe that I dipped into the cosplay pool, and so I made a Han Solo cosplay. My best friend went as Boba Fett, and we walked around, and I absolutely loved it. And ever since then, I've just been hooked on cosplay, and combining cosplay and Star Wars, it's just been a really great experience and journey.
Yeah. Can you remember the kind of thoughts that you were going through for your first cosplay? Were you nervous? Because I haven't done cosplay before, but if I were to ever do cosplay, I think I'd be pretty damn nervous. Can you remember what that was like?
I think I was quite nervous because I wasn't really too sure how many people I was expecting to also be dressed up in cosplay. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be the only one, or whether people were going to look at me a bit weird. And also at the time, the convention was situated near a mall, and so I was walking through the mall dressed as Han Solo, and I was getting a few weird looks, and I was like, have I made the wrong decision? Are people going to judge me? Are they going to look at me a bit funny? And then once I hit that convention floor and I saw a plethora of different people in different costumes from all these different universes, I knew that I'd found a community, a place where suddenly I shouldn't be ashamed or scared to let my geek flag fly.
And that's what's so great about cosplay, right? It's that it's such an inclusive community that even if your cosplay is like mind-blowing, consists of like 10,000 LEDs, or if you're like wearing a scarf and you're like, this is my character, this is my cosplay. The cosplay community is extremely welcoming in that sense. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, I'm a very big fan of the idea of cosplay is for everyone.
Yep.
So no matter whether you made your cosplay spending hours doing it, or you bought your cosplay online, or you commissioned it, or you're just doing a closet cosplay, I feel like everyone should have the opportunity to cosplay, and no one should be looked down because of the standard of their cosplay. Whether you just got a scarf out of your cupboard, as you say, you're still cosplaying a character that means something to you.
Yeah. So now tell me about the play element of the cosplay when you're doing Star Wars, because I mean, the characters are like very, very unique. They stand out. It's like almost by the way that a character walks, you know that it's that character from the Star Wars universe. Just because it's so many species, it's so many characters. Is that an easy thing to do, or am I mistaken?
I think it depends. I think it sometimes depends on the character. So, for example, with the Tusken Raider here behind me, I mean, being that character was such a fun experience because you didn't actually have to speak. You just had to walk around going, and I mean, like, doing that one simple movement and those few noises, I mean, people instantly recognized you as the character. So it was super fun to actually become that character. So definitely the play elements and actually becoming the character, not just wearing the costume, is a huge part for me.
Yeah. So of your Star Wars cosplays, because you've done a lot of them, which is your favorite one to have firstly built and your favorite one to have worn?
Okay. Favorite one to have worn would probably be the Tusken Raider.
Yep.
Probably because that one, it's not heavy armor, and if you're walking around in the sun, it actually doesn't get too hot. That's quite cool. So that's why that one's quite nice to wear. And then my favorite one to have built is the Mandalorian behind me, because with that one I was trying out a whole bunch of new different things. The armor for that one's actually made out of metal.
Jeez.
And also this is an original character. So I wasn't really tied down to any strict guidelines of how the character had to look or anything. I could kind of just have fun with it, and I could make up my own designs as I went along, come up with my own color schemes and paint schemes. So that was a super fun project to build.
Yeah. Tell me, Jax, how long does it take to make one? I mean, from like the concept of, okay, cool, I'm going to be a Tusken Raider, into this is now done and con ready. How long does that take?
It really depends on the cosplay. So, for example, like the Tusken Raider took probably about 70 hours or so, whereas the Mandalorian probably took closer to about 150 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jeez, respect. And what kind of, how do you choose which character you're going to do? Do you kind of assess it based on their like outfit design on screen, and then you say, okay, cool, that can be, that is something that I can do? Or do you say, for this one, I'm going to push myself and I'm going to be Jabba the Hutt? Like, come hell or high water, I'm going to make it.
I think for me, choosing the character, I choose characters based on characters that I feel a connection to. So, for example, with the Tusken Raider, I mean, obviously from A New Hope, I mean, that was one of my first things with Star Wars, like playing the Lego game, you're playing that mission where you've got to track down the Tusken Raiders. That was something that I really felt a connection to those characters because of that game. Then, for example, the Clone Trooper that I built last year, it was a Clone Trooper who I think is only in Star Wars: The Clone Wars for a few minutes, but I absolutely fell in love with his design and his art style, and so that's why I chose to cosplay that character. So I think it's a combination of designs I like and characters I really like.
Yeah. So now another thing that I wanted to ask you is, Star Wars is like constantly evolving, right? Like it's no secret that George Lucas kind of built this dream on somewhat of a shoestring budget, and you know what, he kind of pulled everything that he could together. Do you find that the more modern cosplays or interpretations of characters and the character designs of the more recent characters are a little bit more difficult? Or do you think that the Star Wars genre has, or the franchise rather, has done a really good job at staying faithful to that kind of original series?
I think they've done a pretty good job of staying faithful to the original series. So, for example, if you were to compare a cosplay of Kylo Ren and a cosplay of Darth Vader, I'd say they are pretty much on an equal level with each other in terms of difficulty, as well as technicality and details in the cosplays.
Yeah, awesome. And I also wanted to ask about the animated series. Is it easier to kind of use creative freedom for animated series, or is it much more of like a set guideline and it's much better to kind of take it from the real life thing?
I think sometimes the real life stuff is a bit better because obviously it's stuff that's already existing in this world. You're not having to change certain things to make it look like the animated versions. For example, in the animated versions, sometimes the proportions are a bit off or anything because obviously they're animated characters. Whereas with the live actions, it's actors who have actual human proportions.
Yes.
So I sometimes think it is easier to do the live action characters as opposed to the animated characters.
Yeah, nice. And now I've recently learned, because I'm quite new to the cosplay kind of scene, right? Gonna level with you. I recently learned that unfinished projects are quite a thing. So I want to know from you, are there any projects that you've started and then you've been like, I'm gonna put a pin in this one until we circle back to it, that you just really want to finish?
So I've got a project. It's not a Star Wars related cosplay.
Yeah.
It's a Lord of the Rings steampunk cosplay that I started back in the beginning of 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and I was working on that one, and now it's kind of sitting on a shelf by itself, like half finished. And I've started working on other projects in the meantime. So yeah, there are quite a few projects like that, or even just like props that are sitting to one side. I've had a bit of work on them, and I work on them every now and then just to get a break in between other projects that I'm working on.
Nice. And then I think to wrap it up, I want to know from you, is there any character that you are just dying to do that you just haven't got around to yet?
So I think if I could cosplay any character from the Star Wars universe, I would love to one day build a Darth Vader cosplay. I mean, Darth Vader is one of the most recognizable characters of all time. If you were to say to anyone, I tell you the word Star Wars, what do you think of? Chances are they're probably going to say Darth Vader at some point. So I would love to do a Darth Vader cosplay sometime.
Yeah, sick. Well, we're waiting in anticipation, Jax. We're waiting in anticipation. And then there was something else that I wanted to add over here. Oh, yes, of course. Is there anything that you are working on that you are excited about, that you might want to con later on, that you have in the pipelines that you haven't necessarily announced or teased, or anything that you can give a little bit of a heads up over here?
There are a few projects I'm working on at the moment. So one of them is I'm working on an Assassin's Creed cosplay from Assassin's Creed Valhalla of Eivor. I'm working on a My Hero Academia cosplay of Kirishima. And then I've also got plans to do an original character Jedi later this year. So completely in my own design. And yeah.
Sick. That actually sparks up one more thing that I want to ask you. When it comes to specifically doing Star Wars as opposed to doing an anime or something like that, how do you find that Star Wars is different, and what kind of attracts you to going back to Star Wars?
I think it's just because the Star Wars universe, it's full of so many different types of characters. You've got your Jedis, your Siths, your smugglers, your rebels. It's just so many different characters with so many different stories and unique designs that there's constantly something that's fresh and new to cosplay.
Yeah.
So that's why I keep going back to Star Wars, because I want to keep cosplaying different characters that are still from the same universe.
And that's so true. I mean, we've seen The Mandalorian come out recently. We have The Bad Batch, which is coming out soon. So I'm pretty sure that's going to spark some inspiration over there. But thank you so much for your time, Jax. Really, really appreciate it. You are a legend, and thank you so much.